Hey everybody, welcome back to One Heart Fire YouTube channel. This is week number 2 of the Ecological Landscaper Immersion and Farm School at the Permaculture Skills Center. So it's been quite a long day. It's been really hot over this last weekend, up in the hundreds here in Sebastopol. So we've all been kind of taking it easy. But today was a big day on soil science. August York of Growing Solutions came and taught us all about that. Growing Solutions works with compost teas and biological solutions for big agricultural farms and companies. So he had a lot to teach us. There's a lot this morning on the mineral side, mineral balancing in our soils, the more chemistry oriented, just real deep soil science. I'll play some clips right now and see if you can understand it. A lot of that went over my head. I'm gonna have to read the books and get a much deeper understanding of this stuff, because it really plays a big role in how our food grows, how that soil life converts minerals into nutrients for our plants, and ultimately how we get good nutrition for ourselves. So yeah, check that out.
So organic, as we know it, comes from a man named Bob Rodale, who was, I believe him and his family were in the press business back in the 1950s, and they started kind of one of the first organic magazines. This was right in the time when synthetic fertility products were really taking hold in the agricultural industry, and we'll get into a little bit of that background and how that happened. But so the Rodale Institute is a great resource. These plants, I'm sure you've all seen the trees that are just growing in the middle of a rock, straight up rock, right? There is no soil, it's just right into a crack system that it's just somehow mining nutrients out of that. And then you see right around the base of that tree, in that crack, there's a little, cup of dead leaves, decomposing organic matter, just the inkling of formation of what we more typically describe as soil, right, or organic matter. So plants are gathering nutrients from rocks, literally. And the major difference between a boulder and something a plant can use is particle size. There are many different types of anaerobic microorganisms that are very beneficial. Actinomyces acts like fungi. They build kind of hyphal communities. They are an anaerobic species that is responsible for decomposition and building of organic material. There are several other beneficial microorganisms that are anaerobic, or they're facultative, meaning they'll go from anaerobic to aerobic, or they'll live somewhere right in between. But predominantly, pathogens breed in anaerobic conditions. So if you have really tight soils, you have water drainage issues in your soils, you are in a marsh, all those things, you're going to be bursting carbon, bursting oxygen, not holding on to water. Another benefit we see when we start introducing aerobic biology to fields is more water retention.
And then later on in the day, August took us outside and showed us a compost tea brewer that his company puts out, and talked a little bit about the more organic side, more application of the soil science and this soil biology that we're trying to produce and encourage in our soils to, again, help move that nutrients into that plant, make them available for the plants. Some really good kind of analogies of how the soil works, about how there's this kind of deep, kind of like grandma's trust fund. There's this deep source of nutrients that are in the soil and the minerals and the rocks, but they're not all available. Very few of them are available. There's kind of the savings account of available nutrients, but in order for the plants to get at those, they got to go through the biology, and then they become plant available, and then they become available to us. So there's this whole process that needs to happen. It was really, really cool to learn about. So that was this first day. We're just about to have some dinner and have a bit of a solstice celebration. Solstice is in the next couple days, and we're moving on to more good stuff for the rest of this week, so keep tuned.
And this is what they look like. I mean, they don't always come like this. A lot of them are much lighter duty, but you know, you use this and you're able to go down 6, 12, 18 inches with this and then shotgun out the material into whatever bucket or vessel that you're collecting with, just to give you a visual on that. This basket holds about 2 pounds of compost, so it's about 2 pounds of compost to 10 gallons, or 1 pound of compost to 5 gallons of water. That gets a little bit less as you scale up, but you know, if we took in a 500-gallon machine, it's 80 pounds of compost. If we spread that 10 feet by 10 feet wide, we would cover it like that thick with compost, and we can take that after 24 hours, that liquid solution, and cover 250 acres. And so that ability to take a small amount and exponentiate it out on scale is like what really excites me about this technology.
Hey everybody, it's day 2 here at the Ecological Landscaper Immersion Farm School, and behind me here you can see this is one of the plots, one of the paddocks here at the Permaculture Skills Center, and our first design project is to turn this into kind of a campground for visitors and students. So we got our group here, we split up in 3 groups, and we're just coming up with a design for this place. We've done some observation practices, and now we kind of just came out to look at spacing of things, and then we're going to go back inside the classroom and put it all down on a map.
Just want to reference and echo what Miriam was talking about earlier this morning. All of this is practice for team building and team working. Like, if you want to do things on your own, you will get there in a very long time. But if you want to do things together, you will get there so much quicker. And so understanding that, like that concept of working together, having to compromise the ego and having to let things flow is a big part of what today was kind of part of that invisible structure. We weren't explicit with saying that, but that's part of working in teams.
This is day 3. We spent the morning finalizing our designs and groups. We're about to present them up on the board up there.
So this camp is a safe, comfortable sanctuary that is peaceful, quiet, and a private living space, surrounded by an abundant, colorful, regenerative garden. It also features a centralized, functional communal space, a shower, and a composting hall. So Sean is going to talk about the assessment map that we initially what we have out here.
So there's a lot of stuff on the property, a lot of resources already on the property. We've got a lot of tree trunks and like a lot of compost piles and whatnot. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and move those from where they originally were, which is right here, and there's actually a lot of wood right here as well. And we wanted to utilize that into our concept. So what we did was we built hugelkultur mounds, or we didn't build them, but we wanted to go ahead and design and build hugelkultur mounds around here. And what that does is that actually helps with the noise sector.
But what we're doing is we're creating an edge around the property of the campground that, and the plants would have many functions like drought resistant, edible, medicinal, creating habitat, appeals to our senses. This area would mainly block noise from the neighbors and the traffic in front. And overall, it would create a sanctuary for people to feel comfortable and safe.
We all decided it would be really nice to have a base map shrunken down while we're doing our site assessment. So whether that's a hand drawing or something that's printed out, we wanted this to be able to draw what's going on out there. We also realized taking photos is essential because we came in here and we were like, what did we just see out there? Like, there wasn't a connection, and when we're out in the world, we might be miles or hundreds of miles from our design, and so photos are going to be really key for that. Here we got that land contact time, and so we realized the importance of that land contact time. And being on the land and being able to go back and forth gave us the understanding that that ponto is so essential in terms of creating your design and understanding what's going on already.
So just to give you all some feedback, I mean, I thought that you hit all the groups hit a lot of great, you were able to observe a lot of the issues and sort of variables that were happening there. So I thought that was really great. I love the different versions of like how to utilize all that material, you know, whether it's with like hoogles, and then the different kinds of hoogles, whether it's like a big perimeter one, or we're like actually breaking up into smaller spaces. There's so much variety in how you can use it. And I always tell clients and tell people that, you know, you can get to the same end goal 1,000 different ways. So it's like it's all good, you know, it's all right, depending on the context, depending on the situation and stuff.
Does anyone have any ideas of what family the bees are zoning in on? Yep. So lavender is in the what family? Mint. Mint. Yeah.
What's the scientific name of the mint?
What is the scientific name?
Thank you.
Lamiaceae. There we go.
Square stem.
And then what do we have right here? This guy in the middle here.
Is it cow
The
parsley?
parsley family.
Oh, it's the parsley family.
Parsley. Why do you think it's the parsley family?
Double umbel.
Yep.
Yeah, so I encourage all of you to get close to this flower and totally check it out. It's kind of a trip. It's exactly, yeah, parsley family people. Explain what you see here.
Yeah, please.
So like, this looks like an upside down umbrella.
Yeah, so it's like an umbrella and then mini umbrellas.
All the flowers are Lamiaceae.
Hey, good morning. It's Thursday here, second week of the Ecological Landscaper Immersion Farm School. Yesterday was pretty cool. We finished off our designs, and then we had a nice afternoon where we learned about plants. Miriam kind of had a story time with us. She read out of the Thomas Eppel's book, Shanghai's Quest, which is kind of a children's book that explains really well how to kind of classify plants into their different families based on pretty simple patterns. So we did that, a little group exercise. We went on a little plant walk. That was really helpful. I need to learn more about plants. But this morning we're doing a little construction exercise. Basic construction skills. We're building a shower and some benches and stuff. For me, I've been doing construction my whole life pretty much, so I'll just kind of watch, let other people learn. Maybe I'll learn something else too. Who knows? But yeah, we'll do that, and then we're having some. We're gonna look at some other designs this afternoon, some finished designs and other farms, and get a closer look at what the finished product looks like. So I'm looking forward to that. Also a pizza party tonight, so that'll be fun.
Got a little off at the end there.
So what I wanted to do is share just like a few designs with you to give you a sense of some of the deliverables of a well worked through design process, and then not just about the deliverables, but also, you know, what's a successful design. By the way, this is what this land looked like 4 years ago. So just to give you a sense of how far we've come, okay, this was the property, well, this was taken in 2012. We didn't really start doing much until 2013. Putting together a more of a broad acre view. This property is the same place that we're going to take our retreat on, Open Field Farm in Petaluma. It's a 500 plus acre property. What we're looking at here is about 150 acres of that 500 acres. It was my life, and we started an organization called the Green Block. And the Green Block, what our thing was we would take the street, we would take streets, or we would take public spaces, and we would guerrilla garden. We would plant gardens. And one time in Sacramento, when the biotech ministerial was meeting there, we took over a closed community garden that had been bulldozed, and we retook it, we opened it up to the community, and we guerrilla gardened this whole acre. We ended up like getting raided by 200 riot cops, helicopters, Homeland Security, the whole thing. We locked down, they had to cut us out, like it was just crazy, right? and awesome. And we made seed balls as part of a workshop, and then our seed balls got arrested, and that's a whole story in of itself. I can say that I helped make seed balls, a subversive weapon. And that was a very, very intense experience. We called it Reclaim the Commons, and it was also the war in Iraq was happening. And so we were trying to weave together the narrative of why the war in Iraq is connected to the privatization of seed and connected to the privatization of water and the abuse of human rights of people and all slave labor practices and how all these things were like connected and united. And so we had 7 days of actions, one day after another, that highlighted war, highlighted agriculture, highlighted water, highlighted workers' rights and things like that. And so we were trying to weave this big narrative, and it was called Reclaim the Commons. So we land in the street, we lock down, and the thing is, we're in San Francisco, so it's like, there's 455 protests a year in San Francisco. That's more than one a day, right? So like, this time the cops, who they're totally just like, they know all about lockdowns and lockboxes and stuff, they had a plan, and they had this they actually had this cop with like long hair and black. He kind of looked like this hippie cop with like a design pad, and he was walking around with his design pad, and then all of a sudden they lift our whole circle like this, probably almost as many people, all locked down. They had all these cops lift us all up at the same time, drop us on these furniture dollies, and then they rolled us off and just dumped us in the sun, and then we're like, you can stay there all day, we don't care. So a few days later, I was like really burnt out, and like we were totally not successful. We didn't stop anything. The meeting went on, we had no effect on the meeting at all. We were burnt, really seriously burnt out. I was like in bed for like 3 days, just bawling, like, oh my God, what am I even doing? Why are we even doing this? We blood, sweat, and tears for months and days, and putting our bodies on the line, and like, nothing. We didn't accomplish anything. The more meetings I missed, my whole internal view of myself and my place in the world started to get really dark, because I started to think like the only way I survived as an activist was through fundraising and people fundraising money so I could go do this activist work. And how am I going to do that? Like I can't go to a meeting. I can't drive to town. I can't go to the city. I can't go to the action. I can't even imagine being in the street right now because of what's happening to me physically. And I got really like darkly depressed, thinking that now I'm just a waste. I'm just like, I didn't even believe that I was sick. I didn't even know what was going on. I thought, oh, this is just in my mind. This is just, I don't know what's happening. I needed to find a way to take care of myself. I just in that time got married, like we wanted to have a family and all this. And so I had to kind of transform my relationship with money. And out of that, I started Permaculture Artisans. Out of the need to do something. I had to give up my activist work and start this company, Permaculture Artisans. Now, luckily, I was showing you guys the lavender farm. That was 1 mile from my house. But that was my first project. And so it was kind of like universe shining down, like, okay, like here, like you don't need to drive far to your first project. Like, here's a project you can sink your teeth into. So I take that project on. In the first year of that project, we planted more fruit trees and caught more water than like 3 years with the nonprofit that I worked with. All of a sudden, I wasn't in the scarcity mindset of I'm just basically broke and I'm like dumping out the change jar at the end of each month to get that last Papa's burrito before, the next fundraise money comes in or whatever. I was like actually had some money coming in. Then I was able to hire my friends. I started to hire a couple of friends. I'm like, wow, this is a trip. Like, I'm actually can provide work to them. This is really interesting. And in that first job, it showed me a number of things. One, it showed me that there's a lot of different ways to do good work in the world. There's not just one way. There's not some ideal thing over here that you have to go do that in order to be deserving of health, deserving of prosperity, of self-care. And what I noticed was that my business, as it started to grow and I started to hire more folks, we diversified. We now, we have a multicultural, bilingual company now, and I was starting to hire a diversity of people. And we would sit around, we'd have barbecues, we'd drink beer and have barbecue, and I would notice that like Permaculture Artisans was actually providing livelihood for whole communities of people. Their, Javier's family has been provided for by Permaculture Artisans for over a decade now. And the gift of being able to provide good paying jobs, and, oh my gosh, we were planting fruit trees. We were growing habitat. We were catching and storing water. We're building soil. We're building community. And what happened was I composted my relationship to them. That was one of the first aha moments was, we live on this planet there's so much destruction. Like there's so much healing of soil, of watersheds, of communities, of urban environments, of forest systems. There's so much restoration that needs to take place. And we could build an entire economy around just doing that. Just the restoration of our beautiful planet in community. That could be the basis and foundation for our entire economic system, where people are regenerating the planet and being well taken care of at the same time. So this is usually where, and let me add this. If we want the solutions of permaculture and the solutions of peacemaking to be available to everybody, then we need to stop judging each other. We need to stop putting labels and like I like to say that I want the Republican rancher to be able to see the benefits of a peaceful, loving community and a regenerative design plan as much as I would anyone else. Like I think that water, food, safety, shelter, like this is for everybody. And if we are if we're doing an us and them, pitting ourselves against each other sort of thing, then that just doesn't feel right to me. And so how do we message all of this? How do we message permaculture? How do we package the message in a way that is palatable to everyone? And what I've found is that, I don't judge people. I just really don't. And all I want to do is just be in a loving place with people. And people can have their pain. It's okay. They can have their own judgments. They can have their own. That's fine. That's okay. But I just want to bring love. And what I've found is that that's really powerful for all walks of life.